Just a quick content warning. I do a lot of walking and talking, and I'm out of breath. I'm doing a lot of huffing and puffing. So if this triggers a memory of you maybe, huffing CO2 canisters in the back of your friend's Ford Focus, then I don't know what I can say. I don't know what I can do for you, but just Ford Focus. Oh my gosh. Okay, I warned you. So let's talk about forgiveness. Now, you have to forgive me that I have not been here for a hot minute, and I'll explain in another video what I've been up to. But what I wanted to share with you in this video is why it's so darn hard to let go, to forgive others, because it feels like it's just something we hold on tightly to. And if that is you, I want to share ways in which you can learn to let go and to forgive so you can have a freer and lighter life. So stick around. If you're new here, you may not know, part of my story is that I abused alcohol for many, many years. And one of the things that fueled it was resentment and victimhood and anger, and not being able to let go of any slight. If I thought that maybe, perhaps, you may have something on me or against me or whatever it was, whatever I perceived, it was usually a fantasy or illusion, then I held on to that. It's like a squirrel with a little nut in, putting it in the tree or whatever. And I harbored all those resentments. And the idea of forgiving anyone was ludicrous. I wouldn't even think of that because that was my fuel, holding on to all of those things. And it wasn't until I got sober and started doing the real inner work that I realized the power that forgiveness had. And the first person I had to forgive, and the hardest one to forgive, was myself. But let's start maybe a little bit easier with forgiving others. And just a quick caveat, if you're having a hard time forgiving someone, that's okay, you're human. It's not easy, it takes courage, it takes time, it takes practice. So just take what you can from this, and hopefully some of it will be useful to you. So one of the reasons that it's hard to forgive is that you've got to be open and vulnerable. And if you've been hurt or harmed in any way, that feels like you're, ripping open a Band-Aid, a wound. But one of the key parts in learning to forgive is to feel the feelings. But it makes sense for a lot of people. It's hard because they have to open themselves up again. And that's really hard, especially if you feel or have been betrayed or hurt by someone that's close to you. And it's easy to point the finger of blame at other people. It's easy. It takes the pressure off of us. It takes the focus off of us, and it puts it squarely on someone else. And so it's a hard habit to break, as Chicago Peter Cetera once said or sang. They were onto something. For some, it's hard to let go and to forgive because there might be a pattern in their life of a certain type of person or say certain type of situation that comes up again and again. So they don't trust other people. So it's easier to not forgive them because it holds to that pattern. Another reason why people struggle is when the other person caused you harm or whatever it is, when they feel like there's no remorse, that they're not sorry. And so it feels like it justifies them holding on to not forgiving them, to holding that resentment. And so what's happening is that power that you have, you've given it away to someone. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but it's the lack of remorse that sometimes holds people back from forgiving. One of the biggest reasons why people have a hard time forgiving is because they feel like if they were to forgive, that they would be condoning whatever it was that person had done. And that's the furthest from the truth. There's a part, it's almost like we seek justice, right? And if we hold on to not forgiving, in a way we feel like we're somehow punishing that person, but we're not. Because in the end, not forgiving, we're punishing ourselves. That's the problem with this. That's the reason we want to forgive, is that we want to relieve ourselves of the hurt and harm, not them. Pride and ego. It feels kind of good to hold on to a grudge, doesn't it? It kind of feels powerful. It feels like you've got something on someone. It feels like you're lording something over them, when at the end of the day, they don't care. Because it's not about them. Forgiveness is about you. So if that resonates with you, if any of those resonated, I'm going to share with you some tips and ways to learn to let go, to drop the rock, so to speak, so that you can start living a life that is freer, lighter, and just more palatable. So the first thing that you need to do when you're looking to forgive someone is to acknowledge the hurt, acknowledge the feels. And that's the one that probably sucks the most, because you have to feel the feels, essentially. And if you can acknowledge, like, yes, this person hurt me, I felt like this, I felt like that, it's going to be the foundation for the forgiveness. Because if you just gloss over or just to downplay or minimize what happened, it's going to be hard to get into the forgiveness stage. The first stage is to acknowledge that it sucked and you got hurt. But then that leads to the other steps. The next step, and this is one that all people also have a hard time with, is considering what it was like for the other person. What was their situation like? What was their mindset like? What was their environment like? Like, what was going on for them? And sometimes that can help in regards to forgiving. Again, we're not looking at condoning. We're not looking to, take the responsibility off of them. But it can help sometimes practicing empathy. What was it like for them? How did it feel for them? Because it can make a big difference in how you approach this. Were they remorseful? Did they feel bad? Was it an accident? What were their intentions? These can help. Again, even if someone wasn't remorseful and they had malice intent, it doesn't matter. It just may be a bit more challenging to forgive in the end. But practice the empathy, see what it was like from their point of view, and that can help bridge from where you are now to where you want to be. And now we get to the part that in some ways is easy. And that is just simply making a decision that you're going to forgive that person. That's it. And again, we're not looking to condone. It doesn't mean that they're absolved of any responsibility. But for you and I to make that decision, that is the precursor before letting go, before dropping the rock, is making the choice, because forgiveness is a choice. If you can decide that you have it in your heart to forgive whoever it is that harmed you in whatever way, that is going to release the pressure. That is going to give you the relief that you seek. It's like the sun warm on your face. It's just going to bathe you in a different light and a different energy that is so different from where you are now, which is holding on to the grudge, holding on to the resentment. So make the decision. And then you just let go. You let go. You let go. You let go. You let it go. Give it to the universe, give it to God, whatever it is you want. And this is where you can seek any support. This is journaling, therapy, support groups, whatever it is, prayer, whatever it is, let it go, because it's no longer yours. That anger, that resentment, you're giving it out. And again, just to put this in perspective, you're not condoning. You don't have to reconcile with the person. You're not getting them off the hook. Like, there are people that we can forgive that need to be in jail. There are people that we forgive that we'll never talk to ever again. There are people that we forgive that we will have nothing to do with. And that's fine, because the forgiveness is not for them. It's for you. It is for you. Now, one last comment, if you will. If this person that you've forgiven is still in your life, let's say it's family, it's a coworker, someone that you really can't move away from, this is the perfect time to create and enforce boundaries. That's a different video. We can talk about that separately. But this is where you can limit your time with people. This is where you can have certain things that are off limits, off topic. And so this is going to be a stretch for a lot of people. A lot of the times the people that we need to forgive are the ones in our closest circles, and especially ourselves. We didn't talk about self-forgiveness, but a lot of these things that I just shared apply, because we are hardest on ourselves. No doubt about that. But I know for me, in my journey in sobriety and inner work, if you will, the day that I forgave myself was very powerful. It's actually, I wrote about this in my book, Longing for the Spirit. But I sat down on a park bench on a winter day like today, and I was biking home from work, and I just heard a voice say, sit. And eventually, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but I forgave myself and I broke down right then and there. And I just felt this release of pressure and felt so much love come in. You know, we're works in progress, and sometimes we'll have to revisit the forgiveness piece. Once you strengthen that muscle, it's just an easier, lighter way of being. And just a quick thought too, if you're on the other end of that, the other side where you've done the harm and you're wondering and hoping that they will forgive you, understand it's the same process. Like, they have to do it for themselves. Sometimes when we ask someone to forgive us, like I kind of cheekily did at the beginning, which, you know, whatever. That's guilt. That's straight up guilt. And you're hoping that they forgive you because you feel guilty. Now, that's the stuff you've got to work on. And one of the things that I have learned is making amends. Now, that's a different video. Maybe that's the next video where we talk about how to make amends as opposed to begging for forgiveness, because those are two very different things. And by making amends, you can actually end up getting what it is you desire. And that's a peaceful, energetic resolution for both of you. But again, if someone is holding something on you and you're wishing for them to forgive you, that's guilt, baby. You got to work on that yourself. All right, well, here endeth the lesson. If this was useful to you in any way, shape, or form, please feel free to share it. Also to like, subscribe, and comment, you know, the usual stuff. Maybe all of that if you're feeling particularly feisty. This is a young channel still. It's I know I took a bit of a hiatus, but we're back. And I would love to see this grow. If there's any thoughts or comments to future topics, if there's something you want me to cover, I'd be happy to help you out. Just drop a comment. You can find me on Instagram. You can message me there, and TikTok. So you know where to find me. Adios.